station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Monday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. Spotty showers today, mostly cloudy, and the high temperature near 62 degrees. A chance of showers overnight, mostly cloudy skies around 52. Could be a rumble of thunder. Showers in the forecast for Tuesday, a weather front coming in. That'll cool the temperatures down into the 40s late in the day. Wednesday, partly sunny in the mid to upper 40s. Your life, your music, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. Hundreds of US citizens have left Japan after being quarantined on the Diamond Princess cruise ship over coronavirus. The UN says at least 22 people have been killed in an attack on a village in northwestern Cameroon. Storm Dennis is causing significant disruption in the UK, and Australia's national broadcaster, the ABC's, lost its court case over the validity of police warrants used in order to raid its Ultimo headquarters in Sydney last year.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, and we continue on with our political interviews. Today we have Representative Jack Ladyman. Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Sorry about that. Okay, so if we could start out with you, please, giving everyone a brief introduction about who you are and what position you currently hold.
Well, my name is Jack Ladyman. I'm a state representative for District 59, which is North and West Jonesboro, North and West Craighead County, includes Bono, Cache, and Egypt. I am serving my third term. I'll be running for a fourth term in November.
Okay, so I know people want to hear about the issues, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into what are some of the top issues that are being discussed in the House, I guess, in Arkansas, for Arkansas.
Well, you know, we're really in a good place in Arkansas. We've seen great improvements in our economic condition here.
Okay.
With the three tax cuts that's been passed in the last three sessions, and the national tax cut has really helped us economically. Our unemployment rate is here in Jonesboro, I think it's 2.6. We're, I think, the third lowest in the state. And I want to talk about that a little bit because you hear people say, I went to a meeting the other day and they talked about Arkansas being the poorest state in the union. That is not true anymore. We've come a long ways. In Jonesboro and Craighead County especially, when you look at statistics, I saw a statistic just the other day, and it talked about the counties that had the best unemployment rate. We were number 3 best, right behind Washington and Benton County. Our money that's expended on capital investments here, we're normally 2 or 3. We actually were number 1 over a period of time. So we've got good economic conditions going, but there are still people that are not benefiting from that. So we need to make sure that we're doing things to pull everybody up, because that's the goal.
Because what I hear, and just passing conversation and on social media, is that yes, people may have jobs, but they're still not sustainable job. Well, okay, they're not helping them to sustain their life. They're having to either work a second job or third and still apply for state benefits. Mm-hmm. And so I would love to see everyone get to a point where they're not reliant on benefits and their actual income is enough to sustain their lifestyle.
Yeah, I totally agree. But we have seen increase in income, a percent of increase. I think nationally it's $2,500 per year that those wages have come up when you look at the national. Now, again, statistics, it's a little bit hard. You can if you look at different areas or ask the questions differently. But the people that are in the lower income brackets are the ones that are benefiting the most right now. But still, as you say, we're still not where we need to be. So we need to continue to improve that. Talk about Medicaid as an example. Expanding Medicaid has the state in a financial situation. Just this past week, a federal district court threw out the work requirement for Medicaid expansion. Okay. Now that probably will go to the Supreme Court. But that puts a strain on our state budget, a big strain. And we have two options, of course. If we do not fund Arkansas Works, then our percentage that we pay for Medicaid will go from 10 to 30%. So that's a lot more money for the state. But if we continue down the road with Arkansas Works and these waivers like the work requirement, if those are not implemented, then we're going to have a problem funding Medicaid, and we're going to have to find money somewhere else. So when you go to moving money around the budget, education is the biggest part of our budget. So where do you get the money?
Well, from my understanding, and this is of course the limited understanding of the Medicaid expansion, is that a good portion of the money is coming from the federal government to offset, I guess, some of the hospital costs for those who are not insured. So, again, I'm trying to get an understanding of all of this. So how does having the expansion hurt Arkansas? Well,
it's very complicated.
Okay.
And at the beginning of Medicaid expansion, we paid nothing. The federal government paid all of that.
Okay.
But gradually, each year, we paid a higher percentage. So now I think we're up to about 7%, and we will go to 10% of that expanded Medicaid.
Okay.
Which is a lot of money. So, yeah, I hear this, well, we're going to get this money from the federal government to support this. And we will still get 20% of that. But 10% of that expanded Medicaid is a lot of money. We had a work group that worked for about a year looking at how do we fund this. And the goal that came out of that, or the result that came out of that work group, was that we needed $830 million to fund this. And where the money was coming from was reduction in current Medicaid, fraud or whatever. But what that's doing is it's squeezing those folks that are disabled and the elderly, because those are the groups that are on regular Medicaid. Mm-hmm. So that money is coming from that. The goal was to save $830 million from regular Medicaid. We are at $630 million that we've saved. We have to have the $650 million, and 830 by the end of 2020 to be able to fund expanded Medicaid. But what I'm seeing and calls that I'm getting is people that are currently disabled and on Medicaid, they're being cut. Some of their benefits are being cut. The elderly are being cut. Nursing homes are closing. We had one close right here in Jonesboro. So they're being squeezed because that's where a lot of that money is coming from, to pay that 10%, not the total amount.
Okay. So we need to really follow the news and follow what's happening.
We do.
Are there any particular web pages like ArcLeg or any place else that we, the regular citizens, can follow along and see what's happening and what's being discussed on the state level?
Well, one of the best places to go, I think, is the DHS page, the State Department of Human Services.
Okay.
There's a lot of information on there. Like that program I talked about where the savings, there's information on there on how that's going and where that money is coming from. And a lot of those savings are good savings. It's efficiency. It's people that live out of state that are drawing Medicaid. So there is some fraud in that, and we've uncovered quite a bit of that.
Okay.
So that's good. I mean, and so we're spending that money better. And obviously we all want everyone to have insurance. Mm-hmm. But there are still a lot of people, even with expanded Medicaid, that don't have insurance because they can't afford it. And when they do buy it, they can't use it because the deductions are so high that it's just not practical, so they just don't do it. And I know people that paid the penalty because they felt like that was a better thing than paying for insurance that they could not use. Now we're talking about people in a little bit higher bracket. That expanded Medicaid goes up to 130% of the poverty rate.
Okay.
So people are at that 120, 130%. Yes, they could get insurance, but they couldn't use it because they couldn't pay the deductible and the premiums.
Yes.
It's very complicated. We all have the same goal. We all want everybody to have insurance that they can use, that helps them and their family and their kids being taken care of and getting good medical treatment, because we have the best medical treatment in the world, right here in Jonesboro, right here in the U.S. So we want that to be available to everybody. The other side of that is the hospital closures. Okay. And, Arkansas Works, or the public option, has helped in that sense, because we have not had as many hospital closings as some of the surrounding states that didn't participate in that. But we still have hospital closings. We had one recently. We've got one in bankruptcy right now. So that hasn't solved the problem of rural hospitals. And again, when you get into and you look deeply into the hospital situation, what's happening in rural communities, and this is not a big problem for Craighead County because we have hospitals here, but when you get into some of the very remote counties in southern Arkansas, the people are moving out of those small towns into cities like Jonesboro and Conway and Springdale and places like that. So the smaller towns are losing a lot of people. They can't maintain those hospitals because there's just not enough demand there for the medical treatment. So, and I'm chair of public health in the House of Representatives. We have this discussion a lot, and I've told Dr. Smith, who's the Secretary of Department of Health, and others, we really need to look at what a rural hospital should look like. Okay. My hometown of Corning had a small rural hospital. It closed because they just could not sustain it. But they tried to meet all needs in these rural hospitals. You can't afford to do that. It's like if you have a business, you have to at least balance the budget, if not make a profit. So we need to look at, do we downsize these hospitals and maybe have better transportation to the better hospitals where they can get better treatment, and not try to have as many specialties in these rural hospitals where you have basic health care, and if you need a specialty like a heart doctor or cancer or whatever, you have better adequate transportation to get them quickly to a medical center where they can get that treatment. But the thing about it is, we need to think outside of the box rather than just continue to build rural hospitals the way we've done for 50 years and try to get something that works in the current economic situation.
All right. And again, I'm no medical expert, but some things that I've discussed with members from the NYT school on the ASA campus, there's a telemedicine option where there can be a centralized clinic of sorts, and the doctors or whoever, the medical professionals, can teleconference with the patients, at a scheduled time. So maybe that's something to look into expanding. I don't know. I'm not a medical person, so I don't know exactly.
Well, you bring up a good point. I've met with Dr. Spite out there at NYT and talked with him about this, and they're doing a couple things. One thing, we're really blessed because we now have two DO schools, the one here in Jonesboro and the one in Fort Smith, that's going to be graduating 230 doctors a year.
Okay.
Now, ASU is having their first graduating class this year, I believe, and Fort Smith is 2 years behind. But that'll be 230 doctors that will be coming out of school, and hopefully those will be they'll be staying in Arkansas. But telemedicine, you mentioned that. There's a lot of improvements going on there, much more that we need to do legislatively as well as just practically implementing it. But also NYT, they have a medical van that they're going out, and they're partnering with certain cities in the Delta and providing medical services, one day at a time at certain cities, which is going to help that. But these doctors, one of the problems we have with these new medical students that are going to be graduating, they have to go into a residency.
Okay.
We have limited residence positions in the state of Arkansas. So we need 230 of those at least, and then some for people that are coming into Arkansas to do a residency. So we don't have enough. So we've got to work with UAMS, St. Bernard's, NEA Baptist, St. Vincent's Baptist in Little Rock, and we have to open up more residence spots for those graduating students, because if they leave the state to do their residence in Tennessee or Missouri, a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, they'll stay in that area. So we're training them here, we need to keep them here. So that's a big thing that we need to address.
Okay. We're going to move on to another topic. I'm sure once again, more to everyone that is listening and watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in our Facebook Live feed or give us a call in the studio, 870-277-1080. Okay, so another issue that has come up is, well, it's called issue 1, I think, concerning the sales tax. It's a half cents sales tax on gas that helps to fund our road repairs and improvements, and so it's supposed to end in 2023, I think. And so what do you stand on that, or what is the current position, like what's happening with that right now?
Well, let me just say that I want to lower taxes. I'm opposed to increasing taxes in a general sense, but I did not sign the pledge not to raise any tax.
Okay.
Because the purpose of government is for us to pool our resources and use it for those things that we all need to use. And one of the things that we all use is roads, and we have to have that. We can't get to work, we can't get to the doctor, so we have to have good roads. It is the lifeblood of economic growth, our road system, and it has to be good and it has to work. I used to be a mayor, so I understand what this would do to cities and counties if this tax goes away.
Okay.
They would lose a lot of funds that they need. I understand government making a commitment and then not following through, and that irritates me like it does everybody else. But we're at a different spot than we were 10 years ago, and we're in a growth mode. We need good roads. I can give you a couple of examples that would really help Northeast Arkansas. If we could get 67 4-lane from Walnut Ridge to Poplar Bluff,
Okay.
if we could get Highway 412 4-lane from Fayetteville to Jonesboro, that would give us 2 interstates coming into Jonesboro. We're one of the fastest growing counties in the state. We were number 1 at one point. So we need those roads. I think this is a tax that's needed. The other thing is that the price of gasoline is going down because we are now a net exporter in energy, the United States.
Okay.
In Arkansas, we have oil resources here. If you've noticed, gas, I took a picture of it. Gas was $1.99 here in Jonesboro. It's now $1.97. Thought I'd never see that again in my lifetime. So it continues to go down. So, we're seeing a reduction in our cost in gasoline. So maybe it's a good time to do that. I know many of my friends are adamantly opposed to the tax, but I just believe it's something that we need to do. We need to use it effectively. And this money would go to new construction like 4-laning 67
Okay.
and working on 412 and other issues like that. It's new construction. But not only that, look at our cities and our counties. And I've talked to our county judge. I've talked to all the mayors here in Craighead County. And it would be a really good benefit for them to continue to have that money to continue to grow, because we need new roads. If you go from Jonesboro to Blytheville, that 18 is being upgraded in 4-lane. There's bypasses going around Monette, Manila, and other places. I mean, this all fits together. A lot of the folks that work over in Mississippi County live in Jonesboro.
Okay.
So they need good roads to go back and forth, and probably more of them would live here because we have shopping, we have medical, we have education, and a lot of those people want to live in a center like that. So and the reason that's important, if we raise our economy in Northeast Arkansas region, and we need to think more regionally here in Northeast Arkansas and not just specifically with cities and counties, but if we raise that, that helps everyone, even those people that are in the lower income bracket that you mentioned earlier, because there'll be more higher paying jobs. And you know, I don't have anything against McDonald's. I go there all the time, but McDonald's is good for a starting job, and you know, they're paying much better than they used to. But people can graduate from that on up to maybe a factory job where they're going to be making 50% more money and be able to buy their insurance. So, you know, as they say, you know, rising water lifts all boats, no matter who you are. Okay. So if we have good roads, we have good economic growth, that helps the lower income folks raise themselves up. And let me just say, you know, what I'd like to say to your listeners is, no matter where you are, you have the opportunity to do better. It doesn't matter. I mean, I know some people are in bad situations and their income and whatever, probably no fault of their own. But, you know, I'm a prime example of that. I grew up, my dad was a sharecropper. We didn't own the farm, we didn't own the tractors, all we got was a part of the crop. And so we didn't own anything. And, you know, I went on to get a college education because of a teacher that I had that promoted me to do that, and was able to get an engineering degree, worked around the world. I have friends on every continent, and I was able to do that. I'm sorry.
Okay. We're going to put a pause right there. We do have a Facebook comment that I will get to when I come back. Ms. Shanquetta Cunningham, I apologize I didn't get to it right now. I want to make sure to give the representative enough time to address it. And thank you, Ms. Rebecca Evans and Megan Brown, for checking in. But please stay tuned. We will be back with more from Representative Jack Ladyman from District 59 when we come back from these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Are you and your spouse considering adoption? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Susan and I were already blessed with 3 children, but then 10 years ago, our hearts were moved to adopt. We were given the opportunity to adopt 2 older children, ages 12 and 9. So we flew several thousand miles into a remote area of Siberia, Russia. There, we went to a little orphanage and found 2 children who needed a mom and dad to love and care for them. Susan and I got to be that mom and dad. If adopting has ever crossed your mind, I hope you'll listen to my podcast about our crazy adoption story at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Want to connect with Mark on Facebook? You can at facebook.com/Mark Merrill.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. KNOMEGA1908.com.
Brought to you by the Jonesboro Alumni chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, dedicated to the purpose of achievement. Jonesboro Alumni at gmail.com, Jonesboro AR Alumni chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity on Facebook, and Jonesboro_Kappas on Instagram.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why is my son having trouble in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with my son over his homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, he's smart, but his mind wanders.
7 wonders of the world.
Why don't you understand me?
I do. I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues designed to help you help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything. Brought to you by Understood.org and the Ad Council.
Calling all women and minority business owners as well as the general public. KLEK 102.5 FM presents the Women and Minority Business Showcase at Centennial Hall in the Arkansas State University Student Union. Live broadcast on KLEK and on Facebook. This is your opportunity to show what your business, church, or organization has to offer to the unique, diverse audience of KLEK listeners, supporters, and the Jonesboro community as a whole, or to just check out all the vendors in attendance. Register at klekfm.org. Free admission to attend. The KLEK Women and Minority Business Showcase is sponsored by the Arkansas State University Office of Diversity and Community Engagement. This event is a KLEK fundraiser.
The KLEK 2020 Women and Minority Business Showcase, Saturday, February 22nd, from 10 o'clock a.m. until 4 o'clock p.m. Registration and other information is on our website, www.klekfm.org.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com. Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
After the show, it's the after party then. After the show, it's the after party then.
Worldwide.
DJ Suede, the after party.
That's right, every Saturday night, right here on the #1 radio station in Jonesboro, Arkansas, KLEK 102.5 FM. It's the after party with DJ Suede.
Mix me up, DJ Suede.
Blazing hot. The after party.
So Saturday nights, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., be prepared to hear the hottest hip-hop, R&B, throwbacks, classic jams, and slow jams live in the mix.
Yo, the after party. DJ Suede.
Check it out.
Major key alert. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guest today is Representative Jack Ladyman from District 59. All right, so we're going to let him finish the story, and then we're going to address a comment by one of our viewers, Mrs. Shanquetta Cunningham. So I hope you're still listening. We're going to address your question in just a moment. So go ahead, sir.
Well, what I was saying is that, no matter what your situation is, and I'm talking to the young folks out there, that there are opportunities, and you need to take advantage of opportunities, and talk to people who can help you, whether that's a teacher or a mentor or someone, because there are opportunities, and you need to take advantage of that. We live in a great country where, if you talk to the right people, you work hard, you can make it. And I was just talking about my own situation, about where I came from, and how I've worked in many foreign countries and worked with foreign governments even, and I would have never thought I would have been able to do that because I grew up on a farm and we were sharecroppers. But that opportunity is still there today for everyone listening to me. If you work hard and you ask folks for help and you look for opportunities and you take advantage of those.
Okay. You want to leave it there?
I'll leave it there.
Okay, because I know this discussion in general can go on and on and on because everyone has their different views on, what it means to be successful and rising above their circumstances. And so we'll leave it there. But thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to address the question we have. Okay, so it says education should be the largest part of any budget. One of the underlying issues here is wages. Arkansas is the fourth poorest state in the union in wage income, yet our very own state is home to one of the wealthiest families in the world. Minimum wage increases will do very little to move the needle. What measures are you looking into? Okay, what measures are you looking into that can advocate and develop solutions to increase economic mobility for the people in our state?
Okay, so if we're talking about economic mobility or raising people up in their economic situation, well, let me just say education is very important. All education, K through 12, higher education, and even education beyond that. I was an industrial trainer with 2 major companies that I worked for and taught classes. And what companies are looking for are people coming out of school or out of VOTEC programs that can step in and do the jobs that need to be done.
Okay.
So have the right training. So when we're talking about education, yes, we need to have a broad education, a broad understanding, arts and all the other things, but we need to develop programs that prepare children for good jobs that will help them economically, and that can be in any field. So, we do need more VOTEC right now because those are the jobs that are available that can't be filled. There are a lot of jobs out there, and there just aren't people to fill them. When you talk about things like welders and those kind of things, these companies can't find people. Maybe that's not for everybody, right? But we need to look at the long term, the career development of students, even in the lower grades. And I know in the break we talked about how can we change our classroom setting and our curriculum to improve that. And we talked about student-led. You mentioned that, and I think that's good. I visited the Wilson School. Have you ever been there?
No, sir.
And that's totally student-led, and I was amazed. Of course, I talked to the high school students, and they were doing projects that they led.
Okay.
And they were being taught, math and other things, completing these projects. And it was a great program. That probably doesn't work for every student. So, you have to have a control or a curriculum that addresses everyone, not just 1 or 2 people that might be higher level or those that might be lower level. It has to cover all the people in the classroom.
And again, my knowledge is very limited in this field. However, I would like to see more parents engage with administrators and instructors, and then the instructors engage and advocate at the state level, and then all the way up to the federal level. It's going to take all of us to step up and say something to create the change that needs to happen. So it has to start with the parents.
Well, you mentioned the parent involvement, and I believe in schools. I coached high school soccer for 5 years and worked with kids, and I was a volunteer coach. I wasn't teaching, but I think parent involvement and other activities, the communication with other people, doing extra activities outside of the classroom, art, athletics, you go on down. Now, not any one specific, music, all of those things are important because it gets the kids out into a group to communicate, to work together as a team. So I think all those things are important.
Okay. All right. Let's transition to another issue that has been highly debated. And this is about using the Bible as a source, a history source, in essence, in this public school. There has been a lot of talk on for both sides of this issue. So what is your stance on? I know it would be an elective course if it was approved, but where do you stand on that?
Well, I think students need to be exposed to many things, and I think that's just another history, if you will, that they could be exposed to. I don't see a problem with that. I think we should teach the Bible. We should teach Arkansas history. We should teach U.S. history. I think it's not a bad thing.
Okay. All right. So I just know that there's some that say, okay, well, if the Bible is allowed even for historical reference, then what about other religious books? Where it's like once you let one in, you would in essence have to let them all in.
That's a valid question. And I think, to be fair, you would say yes, you would have to. But I think if the true history was taught about those different religions, it probably would be good, so that people would understand the differences in those histories.
Okay.
What kind of history? Was it a violent history, or was it a peaceful history?
Okay. All right. I want to say good morning to a few more people that are watching. I'm Mr. Scott McDaniel, Mrs. Maddie Warren. Thank you for checking in. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in our Facebook live feed, or you can give us a call, 870-277-1080. All right. So another issue that has come up, the Stand Your Ground law. I don't know. I think at this point is it dead on the floor? Like, do you foresee it ever coming back up again?
I'm not sure whether it will come up this next session. I suspect it probably will. But I haven't heard a lot of talk at the Capitol about that, so I don't know. I think stand your ground laws are good. They have to be vetted and, make sure that it doesn't create a dangerous situation.
Okay.
So it needs to be worked on quite a bit.
Okay.
The one that we voted on last session, there were some groups that were opposed to it because they didn't think it was written right. In other words, there were problems with the law. And so there were some groups that adamantly opposed that.
Okay.
But it's not a hot issue discussion in Little Rock right now.
Okay. So aside from what we have already discussed, what are some other issues that we can look forward to hearing about?
Well, let's get back to taxes. We were talking about roads, and I talked about we need good roads. And of course, if we renew this half-cent sales tax in the election in November, I have an interim study,
okay,
which is a bill that we work on in committee when we're not in session. And that bill calls for a half-cent reduction in the general sales tax.
Okay.
So now the state sales tax is 6.5. It would cut that by 0.5%. Now, the reason I introduced that bill was at the end of the last session when we were talking about this tax bill and putting it on the ballot in November. There were a couple people that said, hey, we can get this money from efficiencies and from surpluses in our current state government and go ahead and let that tax expire. But we did not have time to work on that. We did not have time to identify those savings and those efficiencies and what our surplus would be. So if you cut the sales tax by 0.5%, that's about $280 million to state government. So we would have to identify $280 million in savings or surplus to offset that. I mean, we're required by law to balance the budget in Arkansas. We can't print money like the federal government, so we have to balance the budget. So we've got to find that. Some people in the House thought, and there was actually a bill introduced to do that, but we didn't have time to really vet that and to identify the savings.
Okay.
So in the interim, we're going to study that, and if the money is there, then I will present my bill on the floor. We're working right now to identify that $280 million. And our surpluses are better than expected because the economic condition of Arkansas is better than we thought it would be. And I don't know what, I think the surplus last quarter was 80 million, I believe, or something like that. I may be wrong on that number, but we had a good surplus. So there's a possibility we could do that. Now, I would only present that bill if the tax passes and if we continue to be in a good economic condition to where we can actually save that money. And the reason for that, some of us felt like we could take money from general fund and give it to the highway department, RDOT, to do the same thing that this increase in taxes would do. But, the administration opposed that. And speaking as an ex-mayor, I understand why, because you have the money, you want to do the things you want to do. So they oppose taking that money out of the general fund. But if we could reduce that sales tax, effectively it would do the same thing. It would transfer that money to roads where we really need it.
Okay. All right, so we need to start paying, we as a citizen need to start paying attention to what's being discussed and what's happening. Yes. Where can we go to find that information? Maybe the bills that are being introduced, discussed, and where they are, what decisions are being made.
Okay, if you will go to, just do a search on Google for Arkansas Legislature.
Okay.
On that page, all the bills that are in committee, the bills that have been approved, the committee meetings, when the general session starts. We'll be starting joint budget meetings on March the 4th. I'm on that committee. So we'll be talking about these budget issues starting on March the 4th, and we'll go for about 3 weeks in those committees, and then we will go into the fiscal session. So you can go to Google Arkansas Legislature, and you should be able to find that, and all the information on all the things that we're discussing and voting on would be on that page.
All right, so that's www.arcleg.state.ar.us.
That's it.
And so you can search by representative, by bill,
yes,
by House or Senate,
by committee.
So there's a variety of ways to search. And so I think we as citizens, I know we as citizens need to become more aware of what's being discussed for our state, and what are some things that we can discuss with our state representatives and senators.
The other thing on that page, all of our committees and our sessions are live streamed.
Okay.
So you can watch any committee meeting and any session live. And the committees, people that may not know, but the process, bills have to go through a committee. If it's generated in the House, it goes through the House committee, then it goes to the House floor, then it goes to the Senate committee and the Senate floor, and then goes to the governor. So most of the work is done in the committees.
Okay.
And you can watch those live on that webpage.
Okay. So again, we need to become more informed of what's happening, what's being discussed, so that we know what discussions to have with our state representatives. All right, so let's talk about, do you have any events coming up that people can meet you and ask questions and get to know more about your campaign?
Well, I don't have anything scheduled. Like I say, I'm going to be on joint budget. I'll be in Little Rock every day, starting in March 4th, and then we'll go into the fiscal session.
All right, so we do want to let everyone know. Now, will we be voting in the primary for any of our representatives? Well, there are some races that have multiple candidates. So will we be voting on representatives
in the primary?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
District, I think it's 53, which is Lake City, has 3 candidates.
Okay.
To be voting on. Of course, the Senate race, for Craighead County, there's 2 candidates that are running in that race. And then District 58, which is primarily Jonesboro, there's 2 candidates in that race for a representative.
Okay. We just want to let you know that KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Advocacy Council, Minority Advocacy Council, does not support, endorse, or oppose any candidate. This interview is provided for informational purposes only. We cannot tell you who to vote for, but we do encourage you to vote. We encourage you to listen to each one of the candidates, see what they have to say, check out their Facebook pages, their web pages. Do you have a website, sir?
No.
Okay.
No website.
There is a Facebook page, though, people can follow, and it is Jack Ladyman Campaign. You can find out more about Representative Ladyman and ask questions. Send him an email or send him a message. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer your questions to the best of his ability. Early voting starts tomorrow.
Tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, February 18th. Early voting starts tomorrow, and then regular voting is March 3rd. Is it March 3rd?
That's correct.
Okay.
March 3rd.
Right, so we encourage everyone to get out and vote. If you are registered for the primaries, you still have time to register for the general election. So please get out and vote. Make your voices heard. All right. Let's talk about another issue. I'm looking at a list here. There were some questions asked of some other, I guess it was a survey that was done. And so there was a question asked about, do you support or oppose Governor Asa Hutchinson's decision to allow refugees into Arkansas?
Well, it's interesting you asked that. And again, these things are all complicated.
Okay.
And the first response, and that was my first response, was, why are we allowing immigrants into Arkansas with all the issues that are going on with immigration? But when I really looked and dug into that, this came about because of a order issued by the Trump administration. And what they did is they put in guidelines for legal immigrants.
Okay.
And so what our governor responded to was, of course, the Trump administration asked all the governors if they would take these immigrants. And the new administrative order that was put out basically said that legal immigrants could not come to a state unless the governor agreed to accept them.
Okay.
And not only that, but the second level was that these immigrants could not go into a city or a county unless the county or the city voted to accept them. So what it did is it put in guidelines on legal immigrants.
Okay.
So we're not talking about illegal people crossing the border illegally. And it puts a limit on the number of immigrants that can go into each state.
Okay.
So basically what it did is it added rules and guidelines to legal immigration. Now, my first response when I heard that, because the governor did not communicate that to us, I just read it in the paper like everybody else, and my first response was, this is a bad thing. I don't like this. But when I really dug into it and looked at it, it actually added guidelines to immigration. And I think I may get the numbers a little wrong here, but last year, I think we were supposed to have 85 immigrants approved to come to Arkansas.
Okay.
We only had like 50. And this year, that number's down. I think it's like 58 or something, and they project 30 something coming. And they don't only come. I heard someone say, well, we don't need immigrants from Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria where there's all these issues going on. The majority of these immigrants are coming from African nations. And the ones that are coming from Iraq or Iran or other places are people that have helped us, either our military or other Americans in those countries, and their family is at risk. So they've been vetted.
Okay.
So I think, I'm for legal immigration because we need engineers, we need teachers, we need doctors, we need people with this training.
Okay.
And a lot of these folks that are coming in have this if they're coming in legally. And they go through the process, which might take 5 years.
Okay.
So if we do it right, I'm for legal immigration.
Okay. All right, we're going to put another pause right there and take a break. And you're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. And we'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. A major part of managing your money effectively is learning and understanding basic business and financial terms that can improve your decision making when it comes to where you put your hard-earned dollars. An example of a great concept to understand is opportunity costs. Basically, what it might be costing you to choose to spend your money on one thing versus something else. In other words, buying those shoes, an asset of depreciating value, could cost you far more than the money you paid for them, especially if you put them on a credit card, which means you'll pay additional interest and fees on top of the $300 price. At this rate, you'll still be paying for those shoes long after they go out of style. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. from Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
When Dad needed help getting around, I became his driver. Soon enough, it was up to me to be his housekeeper and financial manager, too. When he moved in, I became his cook and even his nurse. But no matter what roles I play, I know I'm still his daughter.
We understand the roles you play. So to help, we created aarp.org/caregiving, where you can connect with experts and other caregivers. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Sensory sensitivity, repetitious behavior, lack of eye contact. You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
KLEK thanks Charles and Candace Mabry and the staff of Mabry Smokehouse for their support of KLEK and dedication to the Jonesboro community. Mabry's offers Texas-style barbecue, beef brisket, pulled pork, ribs, rib tips, chicken wings, smoked sausage, barbecue fries and nachos, sides, and desserts. Located 1504 Red Wolf Boulevard, Jonesboro. Open 11 to 8 Tuesday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday. More info, Mabry Smokehouse on Facebook. Crowley's Ridge Development Council provides information, resources, presentations, workshops, and trainings for schools, community groups, churches, law enforcement, and others related to substance abuse prevention, anti-bullying, mental health, and suicide prevention. More information is available at crdcnea.org.
Hi, I'm R-Dub, host of Sunday Night Slow Jams, with a special invitation to join me this Sunday night. We're gonna slow it down and make the most of the last few moments of your weekend with slow jams and special expressions to the ones you love. So come on through and bring a friend. I'll see you for Sunday Night Slow Jams. Sundays 8 to midnight on 102.5 KLEK.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Let's go inside the mind of a 10-year-old.
I should have worn earrings today.
Buckle up, Sarah.
Michaela's got like the best earrings.
Sarah, buckle up.
I wish my name was Michaela.
We're not hitting the road until you buckle up, honey.
Oh yeah, seatbelt. I wonder if there's pizza at school today.
It can be tough getting through to kids, but it's your job to make sure they're wearing your seatbelts. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup for more information.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest, Representative Jack Ladyman from State Representative from District 59. All right, so we're going to continue on our conversation. One thing we need to touch on is opioids, and it's been a lot of talk about how to tackle it. People want to play the blame game. Where do we start? Who do we blame? How do we fix it? And everything in between. So I don't even know where to start.
Well, let me just say again, my background's in engineering, and there's no blame. We don't need to be looking at blaming people, no matter who it is. We need to look for solutions. What caused the problem? how can we address that problem? How can we solve the problem, and not get into blaming any group or any people. So opioid abuse, a lot of that is started by folks that are on prescription drugs, and this is a very complex problem again, and it goes back a number of years, because when opioids were first introduced, they were good pain medication, they were inexpensive. Maybe there wasn't a full understanding of the addiction issue with opioids, and so that kind of developed over years. So a lot of people that got on opioids got addicted to them, and then maybe went on to heroin or other things and became users, did that innocently. I mean, they got on those drugs not on purpose, but because they thought they were helping them. So now that's one group, and then there are other people that just use them because they're a good drug to use and they're inexpensive. So there's multiple facets of this. Number one is the prescriptions. Arkansas is number 2 in opioid prescriptions per capita in the nation, right behind West Virginia. So we prescribe more opioids per person than 48 other states. So that needs to be looked at, and why do we do that? What's the issue there? And how can that be addressed? But it's not just the doctors prescribing opioids. There's other issues out there as well. The manufacturers, are the doctors getting good information from the drug companies that are manufacturing these drugs, from their R&D, as far as how do you get addicted and what should be the level of prescription? And there's a lot of things being done in Arkansas. I applied for and received a fellowship in a fellowship program that the National Council of State Legislators was doing nationwide. I was one of 25 people chosen to do that. Okay. And I went to a meeting in Austin, Texas a couple weeks ago, and met with the other 24 legislators from other states, and we talked about this. And a lot of states are doing a number of things to help that. One of the things that our workers' comp here in Arkansas is doing is they're reducing their approval of opioid prescriptions by half. Okay. So in other words, if you normally give a person 20 days, they'll only approve 10 to try to keep people from getting on those drugs. And there are a number of other things that we're doing. Dr. Smith was there and presented some of the programs that Arkansas has put in place. He's the Secretary of our Department of Health. Okay. And he, along with the Secretary from Alaska, presented programs that they were doing in those 2 states. So we're better off than a lot of other states, but our numbers are still bad.
Well, hopefully we can see some change happening, and I know one thing that doesn't help the problem is criminalizing individuals who are caught with these prescription drugs. Or I do understand certain behaviors may lead to crime, and they have to face some punishment. But I would just love to see some reform happening across the board somewhere. And I don't know what that looks like and how to get that started, but that would definitely have to be a discussion for another day. So we thank you so much for joining us today. And if anyone has any questions or comments for Representative Ladyman, you can find his Facebook page, which is Jack Ladyman Campaign. And you can reach out to him, or there's other information to reach out to you if you go to the Arkansas Secretary of State
Arkansas page. Legislature page.
Arkansas Legislature page. Okay. You can find information on how to contact Representative Ladyman. Please reach out to him. Again, you won't be voting on him, yea or nay, for the primaries, but depending on who the other candidate is, you will be voting in the general election. So get to know the candidates, get to know where they stand, and make your voice heard. Again, we cannot tell you who to vote for, how to vote. We do encourage everyone to vote. We thank you for tuning in to KLEK 102.5 FM. This has been your Money edition of Community Conversations. I hope everyone has a great and blessed day.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints